All right, friends, it's time for the hands-free drive to work. Because you know in Georgia it's illegal to touch your phone while you drive and it'd be unsafe to do so anyway. So you can keep your hands on the steering wheel and at the same time learn to steer yourself through the weeds of work. So press play on your way into work this morning, and then let's just have a conversation about how we can lead ourselves well today. We've been talking about that over and over again because we know that every leadership book out there says that you'll never learn to lead others well until you first learn to lead yourself. So we have to stop for a minute and think about the ways that we're going to manage ourselves well. Even if we're a leader of other people, we still have to manage ourselves well. And we also know that we'll never act differently until we decide differently. We'll never decide differently until we think differently. And so that's what we're continuing to do. We're continuing to kind of learn the ways to think differently about our work. As we drive ourselves into work, we learn how to steer ourselves through the weeds of work. And we said that my systematic way of leading myself through work, and what I want you to adopt as well, is called last to least. And that is just the name that we've given it. And I know we talked through about kind of how that came about. But now I want to talk about, as we continue to think differently about our work, some core principles of last to least. And I'm going to give you a few, but just one at a time. And today has been a big one for me. And it's just simply this: knowing the difference between watering fruit and growing fruit. If we're going to be great self-managers, we have to be able to discern the difference in watering fruit and growing fruit. And really, fruit at work is results. The results are the things that we want to see. It's a product sold, a patient healed, a child educated. Those are all the results that we're actually looking for. But we know that we have limited control when we need cooperation from a customer, client, patient, student. When somebody actually has to do something to reciprocate what we've done, when they have to do something back, then we know we don't have complete control of that process. Sorry, the couple bumps right here in the road. But pun intended, when we hit bumps in the road, when we are trying to steer ourselves well, we have to know that there are things we can't control about other people. And the result that comes about, often there has to be cooperation from someone else. Even if we're a leader and we're trying to lead people places, they wouldn't go on their own. They have to reciprocate that leadership and become a follower, or the process doesn't work. And so the result that we're looking for is the growth of the plant. But what we can put in is we can water, we can fertilize, and we have to be able to know the difference between the two, or one of the weeds of work will grow up, and that's frustration. And when we become frustrated, we need to be able to know how to steer ourselves through that process, through those weeds of work. And this is why I'm talking about the difference between watering and growing fruit. And I'll tell you, we can apply this in a sales model. We can apply it to ourselves if we're in customer service. Really, all of us need to know the difference between watering fruit and growing fruit. And I can tell you some application, but I'll give you a little story that really brought this whole concept home for me. And that was when I was trying to build a relationship with an individual, and it wasn't going so well. Have you ever had this happen to you? You're trying to build a relationship, but you're not getting any reciprocation back from the other individual. And so the relationship is not growing. And so we have to know the difference between watering the things that I can do, the actions that I can take, and being able to see that the fruits of that relationship grow up. And in the middle of this process for me, when I was trying to build this relationship, I did become very frustrated because I was like, I'm doing every possible thing that I know to do in this relationship. There's still no growth in this relationship at all. But one of the things that I've learned to do when I'm, frustrated, I've learned that I should practice gratitude. And so this particular morning, I found myself frustrated. And so to combat that, I started to practice gratitude. And I went and I gathered my 3 little girls together. And I said, girls, I want to tell you, I'm so thankful for you. And I'm thankful for the friendship that we have. I told them, I said, I don't ever expect you to come and try to build a relationship with me. I want to be the one to come and try to build a relationship with you. But when I do, I'm so thankful that you have allowed me to be your friend. That's the way I put it to them. What I was telling them is, I'm glad that you reciprocated. I'm glad that you allowed the fruits of relationship to grow up with us, because it takes 2 people to have a relationship. And that's what I wanted them to know. And I told them how glad I was that they had become my friends, even though I had taken the first steps toward them. So then we got in the car and we're on the way to school, and Livy, who's our oldest, she was doing a project at the time. You remember this from school probably. You put the little seed inside a cup and then fill it with dirt. You water the seed, and ultimately a plant grows up, and you're learning this process. You're talking about how a seed becomes a plant. And so they were doing that at school, and she said, Daddy, everybody in school, everybody in my class, they have a little green something coming out of the dirt except me. Everybody in the class except me has a little bit of green coming out of the dirt. And this, I had put this into my tool belt. I had used this as a tool in sales for a long time. I knew that nobody buys a product. Me selling a product is not an action that I can take. But me presenting a product, me being convincing about a product is absolutely. Me educating myself about the product so that I can actually advise people well. All those are actions that I can take, but selling a product, at the end of the day, I need somebody else, not just myself. I don't take money out of somebody's pocket so that when they buy a product. So I'd already begun to apply that to myself in sales, but in building relationships, somehow I hadn't made the connection. But when she said this, it just all clicked for me that it's everywhere in our work that we're trying to build something, that we need to understand the difference between watering and growing. And so I said, Livy, did you water the plant? She said, yes, I did. I did exactly like my teacher said to do. I said, did you give the plant sunlight? She said, yes, I put it in the sun. I even gave it space around the other plants because the teacher said that they all needed some space to grow. I said, buddy, you need to celebrate how awesome of a job that you did. You need to be glad that you did everything in your power to help that seed grow. And if it produces, then that'll be amazing. But if it doesn't, you have to admit that that's something that you don't actually control firsthand. You've done everything that you've been told to do and everything that you know to do to make sure that fruit comes up. And at the very same time, I was preaching to myself. I was thinking, with me, I have to be okay if this relationship doesn't grow like I want it to grow. I have to be okay with that. But I can't focus on the relationship growth. I have to focus on my next wise move. I have to focus on the thing that I can do that nobody can stop me from doing. And I'm glad to report to you, I continued to do that. What this thinking differently did, it immediately melted my frustrations. Immediately I became less frustrated because I just thought differently about the process. And then I was able to work the process. I continued to invest in that relationship. And I'll tell you today, it's not the best relationship in the world, but I have a relationship. There are fruits of a relationship there that I had worked on this was probably when that first happened was probably over a year ago. And so what it helps me do, I'm not saying that always the fruits will come up, but often the fruits will come up. Often the results will happen, but thinking about the results does nothing to get the results to happen. But actually acting, when I keep watering, when I just keep watering, I keep watering the plant, I keep doing the things that I know to do, that's the actions that are going to result in fruit, in a produced fruit. So can we do that today together? Can we just say, hey, today I'm going to keep watering. I'm going to keep doing the actions I know to do, and I'm going to leave the results in the hands of whoever the results are in the hands of. I'm going to make sure that I at least think differently about my work, think differently about my power over this process, and know what I can control and know what I can't control. Man, if we do that, we can really be effective in steering ourselves through the weeds of work. We can start applying that to a sale. We can start applying it to a new customer. We can start applying it as we build relationships with other people. If we make a delivery to somebody and we have an interaction with that person, that we're making a delivery to, ultimately that we have an opportunity right there to make our brand, make our company look amazing. We're the frontline people who make those touches with customers, and if we water those relationships, man, we're actually adding value in massive ways, in multiple ways as we do that. So every single one of us, whether we're doing a customer service, whether we're sales, business development, every person, we're managing ourselves through the weeds of work. And if we learn the difference between watering fruit and growing fruit, man, we'll be super effective in doing so. Thank y'all for listening to the Hands-Free Drive to Work. If you have a good way that you kind of put this into practice, put it in the comments so we can all learn from each other. Talk to you next time.